Good morning, and welcome to KeyCode Media's Inputs Outputs, a series dedicated to giving you short technical tutorials for the production, post, and audiovisual industries. Each presentation will run around 20 minutes and will be followed by a live Q&A with you, the audience. I'm your host, Jeff Sangpeel. Today, we're inviting NewTek to talk about their multi-channel video calling system, TalkShow. NewTek Talkshow allows live Skype interviews that look great and sound amazing to connect directly into your production environment. The talk show allows up to 4 guests to join in real time over Skype, Microsoft's ubiquitous program that works from just about anywhere on any device. On the back end, productions have access to a variety of SDI and XLR inputs and outputs, real-time interaction with the return feed, scaling and image quality control, not to mention tally. All the tools a professional broadcast engineering team needs to communicate and deliver high-quality HD interviews. The talk show television format has been around for a while, with hosts like Carson, Leno, Ellen, and Kimmel, along with news and sports networks like CNN and ESPN, not to mention online video platforms like YouTube and Twitch. Since the pandemic hit, we've seen all of these live formats pivot overnight and move to find new ways to bring on live guests using Skype in combination with the NewTek Talkshow. Before we get started, we want to invite the president of KeyCode Media, Mike Cavanaugh, to jump on a quick Skype call to demonstrate how easy it is to use. Good morning, Mike. Thanks for joining.
Hey, Jeff. Thanks for calling me in. It's good to be part of the engaged presentations. It's been a while. Welcome and thank you for having me.
No problem.
Some of the things that I think were really cool about the talk show is using Skype, I'm basically able to have a pre-recorded room I can speak to before I go live, having a producer prompt me on core things that I need to see, and be comfortable that our signal is going to be high quality and that Skype TX through the NewTek talk show will enable us to have a fantastic presentation. One thing I'm going to mention is, in addition, that the actual TRICASTERs, both the Mini and the TC1, have 2 channels of the talk show built into the systems, although we're talking about the 4-channel today. So it's great to be online.
Awesome. Joining the call today, can you describe as a user what that experience was like?
Basically, my computer alerted me that I had a Skype call coming in. I clicked accept. I'm on. Simple.
Simple's always the best thing. Thanks, Mike. We're now just about to hand this over to Richard Evans from NewTek. But before we do that, I wanted to briefly introduce KeyCode Media to those that are new to our community. KeyCode Media is a leading systems integrator with a small army of engineers specialized in broadcast, post-production, and audiovisual solutions. We are also the #1 NewTek reseller in the country. If you need equipment, we have it. If you have a complex problem, we've likely solved it. If you need support, our engineers are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. At the end of NewTek's presentation, we'll invite all of you to participate in the live Q&A. Please submit your questions via the Vimeo, Facebook Live, or YouTube chat links. We'll try our best to answer all of them. Richard, the floor is yours.
Hello, Richard Evans from NewTek here, and today I'm going to cover many of the powerful features found in the NewTek Talk Show. This system allows video producers to bring in remote video calls from anywhere in the world using the power of Skype. So today, video producers at every level are integrating remote contributors for all types of shows. With NewTek Talk Show, remote calls are treated the same way as if their video and audio signals were hardwired directly into your switcher. Now, Talk Show is available in 2 versions, the VS100, which will allow you to make 1 Skype call, and the VS4000 that will allow you to bring in 4 Skype callers simultaneously. So now let's take a look at how the system works. Now, when you first boot up your talk show device, you'll be met with this interface. And I'm running a VS4000, so I have 4 inputs that I can bring in. And if you're running a VS100, your interface will look similar to this. Let me go ahead and set this back. All right, now this is just how we're going to manage everything. So first thing we need to do is configure our Skype TX calls. So I'm going to go ahead and minimize this application and go over here and launch Skype.tx controller. Now from in here, what it's going to allow you to do is to log in to the Skype account that you want to use to place your calls. All right, now taking a look over here on the left, this is where we're going to have our different Skype contacts available to you. So again, like if you would just sign into regular Skype, you'll see all of your friends, family, etc. over here to where you can make a call. And now what I would need to do is set up the different channels of my Skype TX system so that I can place calls to those different channels. So to do that, we'll go to the top right corner of the screen and click on this main menu here. And this is where you're going to go to start to bring in your Skype channels. Now, for this particular system, since I am controlling the system that's here in front of me, all I have to do is type in localhost, and that will give me my channels here. So the first one that I have, I can now determine which one of these I want it to be. So I'm just going to go down in order and say this is channel 1, and let's add another one. Make that one channel 2. Third one will be channel 3. And a lucky number 4 over here. Okay. So to make our call, let's go to our first guest here and click on the camera icon for that. And then you'll notice that this will allow me to determine which one of these 4 channels to send that call. So I'm just going to go down the row and start with number 1 first. So see that it's calling, video started, and there we go. There is our caller, ready to go. So now that we have our call connected, we can see some of this information on the first tab. So let's go ahead and open that up real quick. So first of all, you'll see that our incoming video stream is 1280 by 720 at 16 by 9. And you can also see the audio levels coming in from her call when she's talking over here in this volume meter over here. Now that we have all of our calls coming in via Skype, let's go ahead and configure the TalkShow software. So I'm going to focus specifically on my caller number 1 right now. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of these options here. So for her channel, you'll see that I have a configuration icon that I can click, and that will bring up this pop-up that gives me a whole lot of different settings. So let's go through the first tab here, which is our Skype video. So I have options to where I can turn on my auto color correction. I can also play with my proc amps here if I need to make any adjustments for their color, and also some advanced color settings here at the bottom. That way, if you want to get in there and make it look perfect, you definitely can do that. All right, so let's look at the next tab, which is Skype audio. Now from here, this is where you're going to have the input that's coming in from your Skype caller. So you'll see once my guest number 1 starts talking that I'll have some levels show up here. There it is. And I can turn that up and down from here as well. Now you'll see in the next section here is I have an hardware audio destination. So what I can do is I can also have the audio from this particular call being sent out via one of the hardware outputs from the system as well. So I have the Realtek digital output that I want right here, but I'm just going to keep that as none for the time being. And then beneath that, we also have an equalizer so that if you have any particular frequency you want to get out, if there's some kind of feedback or somebody's voice is just a little too bassy and boomy, then you can go ahead and roll some of those frequencies off from there. All right, and a reset button to just lay everything flat. Beneath that, we also have our compressor limiter so that you can do some extra audio manipulation there. And then also a noise gate as well. All right, so let's go to the next tab, which is Return to Caller. And from in here, this is where we get a lot of cool things. So currently right now on our video source, this is the place where we're going to be sending video back to our caller so that they can see it on their phone, on their laptop, or whatever they're dialing in from. So currently I have this set to be the output of my TRICASTER 410 Plus, which it looks like it's black right now. So let me go ahead and send a signal over to that. And boom. So now if you look on the bottom right, let me close this real quick, on their screen, this is now what is being sent to the caller. And open that back up here. So using NDI, I can use any particular source that's broadcasting on my network, or I can also use my local sources as well. Right now, the next option is for our audio sources. So I can, again, use any of my NDI-enabled sources coming into this system, but I'm going to go ahead and just say follow what the video source is so I don't have to do any extra routing. All right, now beneath that, this is where we have our 4 different channels of audio coming into the system, which I can then route accordingly, which we will touch on in more detail here in a bit. All right, now here at the very bottom of the screen, you'll see we have an option for audio processing, and you can turn your noise gate on or off, and then also a checkbox for automatic gain controls. Now on the next tab for recording, you can record these calls directly to this machine if you want. So if you do want to record to this particular device, I do recommend either inserting a USB 3.0 drive or recording to a network drive. And if you want to record your call, all you have to do is click record right here, and that ticker will go, and you are now recording that call. Awesome. So next to record, you'll see an option for talkback. Now, talkback is a way for you to communicate with your caller to specifically this channel, channel number 1. And you can use either an NDI audio source or one of the hardware sources coming into the talk show itself. So all you have to do is click on this and just hold it down. And when you do that, you see that it goes blue, which means I am now sending audio to my caller. So if I need to make a note like, brush your hair out of your face or something like that, I can do that. But if I let go of it, it will disappear. So you need to hold down that button. But so you're only going to be sending them audio if you hit that button and hold it down. So that's how you can configure any of these channels on the system. The same applies for all 4 channels of your talk show. But let's go ahead and take a look at some of the global settings for the system. So if you go to the top of the screen here, you'll see that there is an icon for system settings, and let's go ahead and click on that. All right, now this is where you'll go to set up all of the outputs that are coming out of this system and going somewhere else. So for your video standard, you can either set it to NTSC or PAL, and since I'm in the States, I'm going to keep that as NTSC. The output format, you can set this however you like. If you want to send it as a 480 signal, you can do that. 720, and it can even go up to 1080 60i. All right, so let's go ahead and leave it at 720 30p for now. So for the talkback input, this is the thing that I was just showing you a second ago about having to send a signal back to your caller. So you can either choose any local NDI video source, audio source. You can also set up which channel you want to send to them, and also the audio type as well. Beneath that, you have your Skype return gain and headset listen gain as well, and also an analog audio output drop down here as well, which you can configure however you like. Now, on this option for show tally on Skype return, keeping that checked means that when that particular caller is on air, like on your program output, for example, there will be an image on their screen letting them know that they are on air. Now, you can also specify what you want that tally image to be on this portion over here. You can hit browse and send a custom logo if you want. All right, now we also do have an option for turning on Genlock for the output of this system if you need it, and all the different settings therein, and your center frequency for that as well. Let's go ahead and close that and move on. So that's how we set up the talk show. Now let's take those signals coming from this system and bring them into a production switcher like the TRICASTER. All right, so let's go ahead and bring in our first caller into input number 1 by clicking on this gear icon and selecting my drop down. Now, since I'm plugged into the same network as my talk show system, all I have to do is locate my talk show. Here it is, and we'll select channel 1 and check it out. There's caller number 1. Let's do the same thing for input number 2. Now these are all being brought over via NDI, or Network Device Interface, our video to IP protocol. All right, so now we have our video and audio from our callers coming into our system, and now I want to take a look at how to send that video and audio signals back to our callers, which usually can be the most complicated part, and that's called setting up an audio mix minus. But nice thing is that the TRICASTER with our advanced audio routing system makes it really easy. Okay, so I have my inputs 1, 2, 3, and 4 up here at the top for my video sources, and they're also coming in on my inputs 1, 2, 3, and 4 on the audio mixer as well. So what I want to do is set up an audio mix minus, because right now every input is coming straight out, and if it gets back to the caller's ears, it can be really distracting. So let's go ahead and open up input number 1, and we'll go over to our routing table. So what I want to do is I'm going to send all of the audio coming from my talk show and send it back, but with different channels removed so that you're not hearing that same audio source. So to do that, what I want to do is I'm going to have this set up. So now I'm sending everything out of channel 1, aux 1, but I want to remove input number 1. So that way my caller isn't hearing their own voice, because typically this is going to happen. There's going to be maybe a little bit of delay because that's just kind of how remote callers work. So to take the confusion out and not hearing a delay in your ear, that's how a mix minus is set up. Okay, so now let's take a look and close that, and we'll go to input number 2 and show you how that's done. So I've already set that one up, so very similarly, so I have all of my channels going out of channel number 1, except for number 2, so they're not hearing their own voice. So now all of those audio sources are going to be coming out of my auxiliary number 1, but with 4 channels of audio. So now what I want to do is I'm going to set up my output of my TRICASTER to mimic that. So out of my mix number 1, right now I have that set to my program master and also master audio. But for a mix number 2, I want to send my callers back my program video and aux 1, which is the audio coming out of those different callers, so that they can hear themselves, but not, well, they can hear each other, but not themselves. All right, so back on the talk show interface, let's go ahead and take the audio routings that were coming from the TRICASTER and assign it to the return feed going back to our callers. So to do that, we'll click the channel that we want to use here. And first thing, we'll go to our video setup, and I'm going to select the mix 2 coming out of my TRICASTER, since that's where I set up my audio mix minus. All right, and now that's all routed properly here, so check this out. Now, to make the audio mix minus work, what we need to do is send my input number 1, is leave that unmuted, and then mute channels 2, 3, and 4. All right, so you'll see that she's getting audio from other callers here. All right, so we can do the same thing. We'll go over to channel number 2, which is mix 2, and mute 1, 3, and 4, but leave 2 open. Go to channel number 3, make sure that's set to the right spot, mix 2, all right? And then same thing, just mute 1, 2, leave 3 open and 4 muted. And channel 4, again, we'll double check, make sure we're getting the correct source. Mix 2 here, all right. And now mute 1, 2, 3, and leave 4 open. So now everybody is getting everybody else's audio except their own, and now properly routed audio. So now that we have all of our signals moving correctly, now let's show you what you can do with them. So now you can use these shots to simply switch between them, or put them into a virtual set and switch between them like that as well, basically treating them like a regular video source that was plugged in via SDI. So I've shown you how return audio works, but now let me show you how return video and tally works. So what I'm going to do is just switch between these 2 callers, and when I do that, if we take a look at the interface that they're seeing, you'll be able to see in the top left corner an on air button to let them know when they're actually on air. Now obviously, connecting a talk show with a TRICASTER is going to be the simplest workflow to set up, but you can also use the SDI connections with embedded audio to interface with pretty much any production switcher. You can also use the NDI signals to connect to any NDI-enabled device. Lastly, if your productions require more advanced audio routing, TalkShow comes bundled with a Dante virtual sound card license to integrate into Dante-powered audio environments. So as you can see, NewTek Talkshow is a powerful and easy-to-use system that can professionally integrate remote calls via Skype into any production workflow and help connect video producers to the millions of Skype users all around the world. I'm Richard Evans. Thank you for watching.
The live Q&A. Everyone out there is encouraged to send your questions via Vimeo, Facebook Live, or YouTube chat. Joining us for the Q&A are Kane Peterson and Andrew Takich with NewTek. Welcome to the show, guys.
Welcome. Thank you for having me.
No worries. Let's see here. Questions are coming in. Someone early on had asked about if all TRICASTERs come with 2 Skype channels. I think that definitely got answered, 2 or more. What's the best practice of using Skype TX on the talk show machine? From Andreas.
I guess I'm not 100% sure what he means by that question, but I mean, the unit itself handles 4 individual calls. Now, the control software can be installed on the unit, but it doesn't have to be. You can actually control the unit from another laptop or computer on the local network. So if the talk show's in a machine room, for example, but the producer who's going to be managing the calls is somewhere else, that is definitely a workflow that you can do. The other thing to also realize is that the 4 Skype calls are completely independent on the 4-channel system. So you don't have to have, let's say you have 2 productions going on and you wanted 2 Skype callers in each production. That is definitely a workflow you can do as well. You can, in fact, even address the different channels with different Skype accounts. So when you could have 2 different people controlling 2 different Skype accounts on the system simultaneously if you wanted to.
Oh, very cool. Also, a follow-up from Andreas: is a Dante license included in talk show?
Yeah, actually, I heard them say that, and it used to be we included a Dante license. I will say on current systems, that is no longer the case. It still supports Dante. You can install the Dante virtual sound card software, which is very inexpensive, but it is no longer pre-installed. So if you hadn't have an older talk show already, yes, you probably have it, but new ones shipping today do not include that that license, I guess is the best way to put it, automatically.
So that sounds like it would be something to definitely discuss with an integrator like Keycode Media to make sure it's installed before it ships out to your site.
And it's also not limited to Dante either. You could do AES-67 or Wheatstone or other types of IP audio protocols. You just need to install a driver inside of Windows that will make it appear. So Dante is certainly probably the most popular, but it is not the only choice.
Makes sense. Kelson is asking, does this use the same video encoding, same bitrate and resolution as over-the-counter Skype?
So, I mean, there's 2 parts to that question because we get asked a lot, like, is the quality different or better and stuff? And so there's different things to think about when you look at this. I mean, from the actual encoding standpoint, well, it is the same because, well, it needs to be the same to be compatible with Skype, right? If it coded something completely different, Skype wouldn't work with it. But where the differences are the inputs and outputs and capabilities you find in the system. So inside talk show, there are controls for, I mean, of course, you've got SDI inputs and outputs. You can put really high quality video into the system and get it back out. There's, balanced audio inputs or IP audio inputs. So those are options. There's also some controls over either enabling or disabling the built-in audio processing that Skype has, which on a normal Skype client you can't turn off, like auto gain control and stuff. And so when you're doing a broadcast environment, you typically have much better audio gear than, the built-in audio functionality in your laptop. So you don't want to have to be fighting with those controls. You'd like to just say, hey, I'm going to turn that off and I'll, use my broadcast professional audio gear instead. So there are handles and controls that allow you to go in and make those kind of adjustments. But when we get down to the actual bit rate and H.264 encoding it uses, I mean, it is going to be the same from that standpoint to be compatible. And the last thing I'll say is that a lot of people, might associate Skype with lower quality, but the primary reason for that is that you're used to looking at Skype with a webcam. If you put an SDI camera on your Skype input, It will look like an SDI camera. I mean, Skype encoding is actually really good. It's just you need to fill it with good quality content to start with.
Makes sense. I guess a follow-up to that would be, can I use Microsoft Teams?
So Microsoft has made an announcement that they are going to be integrating compatibility between Teams and Skype, and that includes Skype TX as well. This process has actually already started. It's kind of in beta at this point, and so while I know we haven't really made a big, a lot of noise about it, I will say that with the latest versions of Teams and Skype TX, you can initiate those calls. You can type in a Teams username or a Skype username in one or the other and initiate a call between the two products. So I've actually tried that and it has worked. I'm going to say it's still a little beta. I did have some audio video sync issues, which I don't think anything to do with, the talk show itself. It was just, the conversion from one to the other. So I would certainly say try it out in your case and make sure it works. The other thing I'm aware of when it comes to Teams integration is that the Teams admins at the company that you're trying to call can, as I understand, turn this functionality on or off. So while it can work, it could be disabled on the team side, which would not allow you to call or have those people call in. So again, test it first to make sure that it works. And I expect as time goes on, we're going to see that improve as the integration gets tighter between the products.
That sounds good. And just tell your IT administrator, don't turn it off while I'm on the air. I'm live. Let's see. JP is asking, are the two channels on the Mini or TC1 auto set for mix minus?
Yes. So on TRICASTER systems that have the built-in Skype TX capability, because the audio mixer and the Skype channels and all that are integrated into the same system, it will do automatic mix minus. Admittedly, that is probably the most complicated part, is setting up the audio routing correctly. So on a TRICASTER, it's done for you. You don't even have to think about it. With the external talk show systems, you do have to set that up. And then the main reason for that is that it's doing 4 Skype calls, but it's not an audio mixer, right? It's hooking into an audio mixer, be that Dante, the TRICASTER mixer, or analog or something else that you might have. So at that point, the audio solution that you're using in place, you're going to have to be able to configure that properly. And as Richard showed, certainly you could do it with the TRICASTER's built-in audio mixer, but if you're using TalkShow with a non-TRICASTER solution, which is certainly doable, you just have to make sure you have the right audio infrastructure put into place so that you can get all the routing and everybody can hear and just get it set up the way that it needs to operate.
Well, that lets us knock off maybe one other question. Will TalkShow work with my existing video switcher via SDI?
It can, yes. It's got SDI inputs and outputs, so you can use it with non-NewTek gear. It's got NDI inputs and outputs, so you can use it with any NDI-enabled video switcher as well. And then, as we've mentioned, you can also install third-party IP audio formats in it, like Dante, so you can also hook into those type of solutions. And in many cases, it will cross between them. I mean, you could actually have, SDI, NDI, and Dante all running simultaneously in and out of the system if you wanted to.
Eminently flexible, as it were.
We try to make it that way, yes.
Which is always good. Kelson is wondering, are there 4 independent channels of analog input and output on the unit?
There are. It is a little bit, there's another training video that I put up on Facebook that goes into a little more detail how analog audio works. So it is possible to get 4 analog ins and outs. That's using some of the XLRs, but then some also the onboard audio to make that work. But I like to be kind of straightforward on a lot of this stuff. Analog audio, in all honesty, is I think the last route you should try to go with this product. And the main reason for that is that, again, we have to create all these mix minus channels and route all this audio, and many analog audio mixers are not up to the task. So while certainly we can get all the channels in and out, what you're going to find is that all of a sudden your audio mixer isn't capable of doing everything you need. I'm not saying they all can't. I mean, there are certainly some that can, but your basic little, let's say Mackie mixer is not gonna handle it at that point. So my recommendation is always to look at using either the digital, with the SDI, or an IP audio format, be it NDI or Dante or something else, because in general, the digital audio mixing solutions are going to be way more flexible when it comes to the kind of things you need to do to make this work well.
That's where a lot of the technical development is anyway.
And certainly
people aren't coming out with new analog.
Like you can help out greatly with that, because I mean, if they're going to hook it into something like that, they very well might, hey, you need a better audio mixer, and you guys can supply something that will fit into those needs.
Well, we can probably figure something out. Mark is asking, can you please share pricing for the two versions?
Yeah,
we have Andrew on who can answer that.
Yeah, so it's $79.95 for the TalkShow 4000. That is the only current unit. We have end of life the single channel, and then it is $16.95 for ProTech, which is a 2-year hardware support warranty that gives you phone support and advanced replacement.
Very cool. And that does not come with a Stanley Cup?
I will add one little thing onto the end of that, and that is that if you do need a single channel Skype solution, you could get a TriCaster Mini and use that, and it's a little more expensive, but it's certainly less expensive than the quad channel unit, and of course it has a full TriCaster built into it, so you get a lot of other functionality as well. So while the talk show is probably the primary way to go, if you just said, hey, I wish I could put a single channel Skype out at a location, you could put a Mini out there and still accomplish that.
I also wanted to comment one TriCaster that doesn't have dual channel Skype. So all the TriCasters, the Mini line, the TC1, all the way up to the VMC have dual channel, but the 410 Plus is the only one that has a single channel Skype built into it.
Awesome. The NJV worship team is asking, we have the new 4K camera and are trying to connect it to the TriCaster Mini HD4. Do I need a PoE adapter of some sort? I think it's a little off.
Are you talking about the NDI PTZ PTZ UHD? I mean, it comes with a power supply, so you don't have to power it via PoE, but you can. However, the new 4K camera actually uses what's called PoE++, because it needs a lot of power, as you can imagine, as a 4K unit. If we're talking about the Mini 4K, the ports on that are not plus+. They're only going up to plus. So it cannot deliver the amount of power that camera needs. So in that case, you would either have to power it with its built-in power supply. You can buy power injectors that could supplement additional power. Yeah, that's just realize it's plus for that newest model.
Very cool. I guess that gets us into these other two questions, which we can put together. Vlad was asking any major updates to Skype TX in the last 2 years. And there was another question, will Skype support 4K or UHD with TalkShow?
So for the first one, I mean, we have certainly released software updates for TalkShow. In fact, we just came out with a new update only a month ago or so. So if you have a talk show, to get it updated, Microsoft also periodically releases updates to it. Now, admittedly, I don't know if I would say in the last 2 years there's been anything that major feature-wise in it. I mean, it's just, bug fixes and little things here and there. It's keeping it, current and up to date and stuff. Probably the biggest thing is that they are working on integrating the Teams product and the Skype product to have cross compatibility. And that's, as I mentioned, already started. So you can start playing with that today. So that's probably the biggest thing happening there. I forget, what was the other question now?
The UHD and 4K, yeah.
That would be a Microsoft question, I'll be honest. That's one other thing I also just want to kind of mention is that do realize that this is a product built in combination between NewTek and Microsoft, and we supply part of the technology, but Microsoft supplies part of the technology as well. And there are things that each company has handles on. So we could certainly bring in a 4K signal into the systems, but Skype itself does not transport 4K. For that to happen, Microsoft would have to expand the Skype protocol to support it. To be honest, I don't know if there are plans to do that or not in the near future.
Yeah, that's who knows what lurks in their roadmap. Let's see. Andreas has a couple more questions. We noticed sometimes headsets are not listed in the TalkBack device list after latest firmware upgrade. Any suggestions?
It should see anything that's a WDM, standard Windows audio device. I know you do have to have the headsets or whatever the device is connected before you start the software. So if you connect it after the fact, it does not go out and look again. But I guess the big question is, does it show up in Windows? Because if it shows up in Windows, then as far as I know, it should work in there. I know, for example, I took I have a Blue Yeti microphone sitting right next to me. It's not what I'm using right now, but that's USB connected. I plugged it in and it showed right up, and I was able to use it as a source. So hopefully one of those steps might get it going.
As long as it's got an invite, it can join the party. Andreas also was wondering, can you compare QuickLink TX Quad to TalkShow VS4000?
Well, I don't know the QuickLink product inside and out. I mean, to be honest, it is a competitive product, but what I can say is that they are both built on Skype TX and they are fully cross-compatible with each other. So if you're calling somebody who has a QuickLink product or they want to call you, they will definitely work. And you'll get some of the same Skype TX functionality that you would see on both ends. And I know there are clients out there where they actually do put a Skype TX client on both ends of the call so that they can get the highest quality, cameras and connections and audio and everything flowing in both directions. So again, if you're calling somebody and that happens to be a solution they already have in place, you can make your talk show connect and work with it.
Awesome. Adrian is asking, does the TalkShow VS4000 have 4 SDI outputs?
It does. So it's got 4 SDI inputs and 4 SDI outputs. The 4 SDI inputs are shareable. You don't have to use all 4, but you can. But the 4 SDI outputs, each one will output an individual caller and their audio, and they're hard-coded to work that way. So you don't even have to change anything or do anything. It just is completely automatic.
Awesome. Any way to block out background noise on a Skype call, like traffic or gardeners?
I guess you're talking about, I know there are some new plugins that we've seen and stuff that do like noise reduction and stuff like that. I suppose there's a possibility you could make those work with the talk show. I've not tried it personally, but I mean, since it does support standard audio devices, you might be able to do that. I've also heard those devices, though, do increase the audio latency, obviously going through them, so you'd probably have to deal with that as well. But there is EQ and there is some, audio adjustments in the software, so some of those might help on its own. But if we're talking about those new audio, like crisp, plugins and stuff, I'll be honest, I've not personally used one, so I don't know the answer offhand.
Yeah, and I know this morning I was listening to the radio and a reporter was talking about national news and said, "Oh, excuse the weed whacker outside." So it's kind of the normal these days.
I mean, the best is always going to be to have as quiet of an environment as possible so that you don't have to deal with it in the first place. But definitely, I know that's not always doable.
Yep. Let's see. Vision Media is asking, why was the single channel discontinued? Many facilities could benefit.
Yeah, that's a great question. You want to tackle that, Keen, or?
I'm sorry. Well, I mean, I don't have the exact answer. My understanding is that by and large, the quad channel unit is the most popular. A lot of facilities that they want, and I think that since the talk show or Skype TX is built into the TRICASTERs, that's kind of replaced the idea of the single channel one. Because honestly, when most people want a single channel on the other end, there's a high chance that a video switcher probably is going to be a part of that solution. Now, maybe they already have that part as well, which admittedly could be, but if they don't, this gives you an all-in-one. So I think that's kind of the thought process in there.
Yeah, I agree with Kane on that. Typically, people are asking for at least 2 channels. So when you jump from 1 to 2, the price point, evens out after that, because the price point of single channel was $4,000, where you get 4 channels for $8,000. So in doing the math, you're getting a lot more benefit to have more callers coming in.
Makes sense. Can you do talkback to a single caller on the quad units? Does each unit accept Dante and DI? That's Or Wankin's question.
Yeah, on the 4-channel unit, there is a separate talkback per caller, and then there's also a global talkback where you can talk to all of the callers if you wanted to. So, and in fact, one other thing that wasn't mentioned in the video, but it is in the manual. There is the ability. There's a 15-pin port on the back of the talk show unit. You can actually wire up hardware GPI triggers to the right ports on that and have external talkback. So if you wanted to have a little like a box, let's say with buttons on it, that again maybe the talk show's in the machine room, so the producer's sitting out somewhere else, you could wire up a little hardware interface to handle talkback as well if you wanted.
Very cool. Marco is asking, any way to embed timecode in the SDI output to then sync them in post?
At this point, the Skype doesn't transfer that. Maybe he's just talking on the local end. It might, I'd have to try it. It might record, actually, it should record, I should say that, not think, because in the latest talk show software we just released that came out last month, we added native NDI recording into it. And native NDI recording does have time code in it. It will just use the computer clock time. So you should have that if you upgrade to the latest software. If you're on a previous one, I'm not 100% sure what will be in there. It could be time of day time code, but there is not an LTC input, so you're not going to be able to feed in an external time code, but you should be able to use the system clock at least to get you something in the right realm of correct time.
And I think there's also ways to inject LTC into an SDI record.
Yeah, you could certainly do it external as well if you wanted to.
Yeah,
I think I know who that Marco is, and let's make sure that his system is upgraded to the latest version to try that out.
Yeah. Well, and I should just say that's actually I'm talking about the recording, so it's not going to embed it in the SDI. So if they need it in the SDI, then external is going to be the way to go. But if they're just going to use the internal recording, then we should have time of day time code written to those files.
Okay, and then two, which are kind of going off topic, two more follow-ups from the NJV worship team. It's about the HD4. If I'm connecting it by data cable to the HD4, do I need the data input on the back of the HD4, or do I have to connect it a different way? And then, it's the same question. Cool.
Data, I'm assuming he means network, maybe, like the Ethernet?
Let's assume that.
Yeah, so if you have a TRICASTER and a talk show, you can make those products completely talk to each other over the network. I actually have one here, and I have 0 SDI and audio connectors plugged into it. I run the entire thing NDI-wise. So you could plug in your TRICASTER to the network, your talk show to the network, and then all of the audio and video cross connects you need to go between the systems to operate in that manner, with those kind of systems.
Okay. Another question. Can I operate a talk show remotely? I guess if the talk show is in your machine room and being able to control it.
So there's two parts of the talk show interface. There is the local interface, which is kind of the NewTek portion. That always runs on the local computer. And then there is the Skype TX control software that actually can be run on any Windows machine that's on the same network. So that part, not a problem. You can do that just by installing the software, and you just tell it, you point the IP address. Richard in the thing, was just using localhost, but you can just type in the IP address. Now, that being said, one thing you can also do if you need to, in your example, it's in the machine room, you want to pull the interface up somewhere else, you can install NDI tools on the talk show, and in there is a tool called NDI Scan Converter, which offers a feature called NDI KBM. And I, in fact, have my talk show set up exactly this way. I have it set to automatically launch that software when the computer boots up, and then I can go to any computer on my local network here, open up NDI tools, and pull that interface up and control it, configure it, watch it, whatever I need to do, from another computer in the facility. So with that software installed, you can make that workflow happen.
And anytime you say another computer in the facility, if you're connected via VPN, it's like you're another computer.
Potentially, yes. So yeah. NDI can work across some of those kind of connections. I'm not going to say it's necessarily easy all the time, because NDI is really designed for local area networks. But with the right pieces in place, it's possible to send those signals across VPNs, or even some of the NDI gateway products that are out there. That being said, there's nothing stopping you from installing a third-party remote access software on a talk show. We don't officially support or recommend any of them, but that's not to say that they couldn't work.
Sounds good. It looks like we're run out of questions. So, Kane, Andrew, thanks for joining us. Thanks to Kavanaugh for popping in and giving us his take on how to join. And our apologies to Matt Damon. I guess we're out of time. That's the way you're supposed to do the talk show, right?
Love that.
All right. Thanks, gentlemen. Have a great day. And, if you need to find out about talk show, please don't hesitate to give Keycode Media a call. We can answer just about most of your questions. And if we don't have the answers, there's two other guys we know who we could reach out to and get some other answers. So thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.